And it's aged surprisingly well. There's some mechanics that just don't work for me. One of them is if you're going to have stealth mechanics, one, yes, okay, you give the player extra information. So one of the skills you can unlock is if you stay still for 3.5 seconds, you can see the silhouettes of everyone within a 10-meter radius through walls, which is incredibly useful, except now you're staying still for 3.5 seconds, which means people can find you. But the line of sight on NPCs doesn't feel consistent. There are times when a guard will be walking through a room and I can just sprint right past him and he'll go, huh? And just keep walking. And there are times where you could be crouched there behind a box and he'll walk the other side of the room and go, what's that?
Yeah. When I accidentally shot the civilian, that was that thing. I saw the there's like this little circle that fills up, and after halfway it goes towards a red exclamation mark, and it just the guard was looking like that way. I'm behind them, and it starts going up. And I'm like, oh, it must just be an awareness
If you
thing.
get too close to NPCs, they will notice you're there.
Yeah.
One of the other things that needs a little bit of work is, okay, you walk up to a thing you can interact with, and it'll have an icon to show what you can do if you have the skills or the equipment. For instance, in the Shadow Raid thing on the top floor, there's a security room. Now, if you get rid of the guard in the security room, none of the cameras work because there's no one watching the monitors. You can use them and spot guards for each other, but now that gives you a lot more freedom to think. So that's always our first priority.
Yeah.
Great. You walk up to the door and it shows you options. You can pick the lock. You can use a saw, which is very loud, or if you have C4, you can blow the door open. Now, on this particular mission, I've decided to bring trip mines and C4 because they don't have to be explosive. They can be sensors. So we're placing sensors around the place to just keep an eye on where everyone is. So I walk up to the door. I'm in a rush. I don't notice which one I'm looking at. I'm telling Mikey, this is our first run through, right?
Just to be clear, though, when you look at the door,
you're going to be...
It's got like all of the possible options you can do to break through. So whether it's lock picking, cutting, or blowing.
You stare at the one you want, make sure that's the one highlighted, because it's not always obvious which one you're staring at, and then hold F. Great. So I'm busy telling Mikey, okay, we're going to take this nice and slow, very patient. I know it's very trolly, but we're just going to make a whole bunch of cash on this. Oh, crap, I've just planted C4 on the door!
Stealth out the window.
I blew up the door to the security office with the security guard inside going, and Mikey's just laughing at me. Yeah, interesting. So mechanics like that, it would be nice to have a little bit more control of what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
But on the other hand, the other side of the really atmospheric bits, I thought, was the holdout missions, which is a great way of just practicing the loud missions. You've got a hostage. They're going to send waves of increasingly hard enemies at you.
It's a good way of grinding cash.
And experience.
Yeah.
Can you stay alive and keep them away from the hostage for up to 9 levels? I mean, we can't. We can do 3.5.
We almost did 4.
We almost did 4. But that was also very atmospheric.
That was the mission where I said to Ian, yeah, I'm all ready. I've got everything. But it being an older game that they've modified so much with, I didn't realize that just clicking armor,
there's a difference between select and equip.
Yes. So I'm like, I'm ready, and I'm like, why am I being killed in like 3 shots instead of like 10 like it normally takes?
He's walking up to a machine gun in a suit.
Don't mind me. Without the ability to be John Wick and just somersault around the place.
Game as a playable character because he's licensed with a interesting voice double.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think there's a lot to be learnt from the game in terms of how they've implemented the various systems, because you're quite right. The stealth is a bolt-on. It's the missions aren't Splinter Cell or Hitman.
The engine's just not precise enough to do it. Like, if you've got a slidey control system, you need to know exactly where you're going to stop, when you're going to start moving. You need to know, am I going to catch this ladder on the way down? Or am I going to fall to my death and Jan's going to have to try and run outside while all 4 guards are facing his direction to resurrect me? No, I'm not going to make it. I can't make it. There's too many people in the way.
Oh, to be fair, that was 100% my fault. I thought I could volley off of the roof onto an aircon unit, and again, it was the control system.
I've seen people do it. I just can't do it.
But I hit the wall and slid along the wall, and like, the aircon system's back there, splat.
Yeah, because the collision on the aircon isn't precise. which is again another one of these things, right? You're playing a stealth game. You're kind of assuming